Worst nightmare cave diving accident, Yuri Lipski trapped in a blue hole. Did you know, over the past decade, the underwater sinkhole known as Diver Cemetery in Dahab has reportedly claimed the lives of more than 150 divers, making it the most deadly diving destination in the world. The most famous scene is of Yuri. You'll be terrified after watching this. The actual video of Yuri Lipski is on YouTube as well. Before going into that, you need to know what all happened with him. So welcome back to our channel, and we'll get going to dig more on how it became the worst nightmare cave for the divers. What exactly happened to Yuri Lipski? One such reaction is, oh, of course, he drowned to death. What exactly killed Yuri Lipski is a topic of heated debate among several communities. The 22-year-old's death has been attributed to oxygen poisoning and nitrogen narcosis, two major causes of death for divers who dive too quickly or too deeply. When a person takes in an excessive amount of oxygen through their lungs, they may experience oxygen intoxication. If you refer to it as oxygen poisoning, though, you're more likely to grasp the concept. Too much oxygen damages lung tissue and causes the alveoli to swell, making it more difficult for the lungs to transport oxygen to circulation. Coughing, dizziness, disorientation, and blurred vision resulting from the damage to the central nervous system caused by the suffocation it causes from the inside of the body. Not the finest thing to happen to somebody who is a couple of 100 feet from the ground and has no one to help them. Nitrogen narcosis is another theory for Yuri Lipski's death. Nitrogen narcosis can impair cognitive abilities in much the same way that oxygen poisoning can. As a result of breathing pressurized air from their tanks, scuba divers frequently experience this. As well as changing consciousness, it produces effects similar to those of alcohol consumption, including impairments in neuromuscular function and behavioral changes. Dumbfounded and submerged, yet another unfavorable condition to suffer with at such a tremendous depth in the ocean. The fact is that Yuri Lipski's grasp began to slip regardless of the answer. However, his emotional state may have made it impossible for him to inflate his BCD and swim to the surface. It's also possible that the effects of oxygen poisoning or nitrogen narcosis rendered it unimportant to him that he should have inflated his BCD. Yet Yuri Lipski's death was the result of his own haste. His father and the local divers appear to realize that Yuri Lipski was a little too enthusiastic about diving into the blue hole, and Yuri's father seems to know, based on the statements he's made, that Yuri Lipski was a little too overconfident. Technical divers generally bring tanks that contain a mix of gases to help combat the effects of nitrogen narcosis at depths like those in the blue hole. Yuri just took only a single oxygen tank. Some have speculated that Yuri Lipski was aiming to perform a bounce dive. In 2018, WorkSafe issued a technical bulletin defining a bounce dive as any dive in which the diver returns to the surface for fewer than 15 minutes between dives at depths of less than 21 meters. Divers can be hurt by decompression sickness when doing bounce dives because of the fast change of pressure that occurs when they rise. The more straightforward explanation, based on what we know about the events leading up to Yuri Lipski's death, is that his arrogance and lack of caution ultimately proved fatal. Excited by the thought of reaching the bottom of the blue hole in Dahab, Yuri Lipski dived too far, too fast, and alone with only one oxygen tank, even though he had only visited the blue hole once the previous year. Though tragic, Yuri Lipski's death serves as a cautionary tale for those of us who take pleasure in daring exploits, not to put too much faith in our talents when contending with the elements. The blue hole in Dahab is still the most dangerous dive location on the entire globe. In the previous decade, over 150 to 200 divers have met their watery ends in its azure embrace. Despite its apparent attractiveness, locals refer to it as Diver Cemetery. The blue hole has seen more than just the death of Yuri Lipski. Tarek Omar, a local diver, is continuously rescuing the bodies of dead divers from the blue hole to this day. Ironically, it was stories of a beautiful young woman who lures men to their deaths that drew him to the blue hole in the first place. These days, he's joined on his dives by the spirit of Yuri Lipski, one of the many divers he's rescued over the years. The final moments of Lipski are the 6-minute video which bears the title, Fatal Diving Accident Caught on Tape. Even though we never see his face, his anguish is very real and unsettling. What begins as a regular dive quickly turns into frantic flailing as he becomes increasingly bewildered. At the same time that Lipski's respiration rate accelerates, clouds of kicked up sand begin to billow into view. At the very end, he takes the breathing device out of his mouth, and at that point, the frame stops moving. That's all for today's video. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more.